world of hyperconnectivity and the need for collaboration, co-creation, and creating connected relationships within a business or enterprise and outside mean that the notion of stakeholders will fundamentally change. Number one, as figure 5 illustrates, stakeholder orientation in the context of a digital enterprise that is operating in a hyper-connected world means that potentially it will have to have direct and indirect relationships with a large number of stakeholders, perhaps categorized through different tier levels. The questions that need to be asked, therefore, are related to the purpose of the enterprise and its needs to create the best formula for value creation and delivering to the customer. At the core level, the question is to identify the primary stakeholders who have substantial influence on the value to be created and the means by which it is to be created. Mainly customers themselves, human capital within the enterprise itself, and direct collaborators who are critical in terms of the specific capabilities they bring in to enable the required value to take shape. In addition, a second tier of stakeholders who support directly or indirectly the value creation process will need to be identified and engaged in the right way for supporting the development of super excellent value creation capability in terms of the means, but also in terms of the specific value proposed for individual customers or segments of customers in the marketplace. Lastly, a third tier of stakeholders who might have a one-off input or occasional input into the value creation process will also be essential in determining the capability of delivering precisely to individual needs and expectations from the customer base, but also to provide an overall value creation capability that can compete on a sustainable basis. In other words, as figure 5 illustrates, a common denominator between the various tiers of stakeholders who need to be engaged in value creation is the principle of value orientation itself. This hierarchy of involved partners through complex mechanisms and through various channels of connectivity would be systematically driven with the principle of stakeholder orientation as a belief, commitment, and a core capability within the enterprise itself, but also with the mindset that relationships are only useful and valuable in the context of value creation and customer satisfaction and happiness overall. And number 2, in the context of a new quality revolution, the purpose of a modern enterprise will need to be challenged and most likely reconfigured or redefined. In addition, the constancy of such a purpose is a relative concept and depends on the viability of the business model that exists and on whether it can sustain value creation capability that can be reconfigured, adapt with significant disruptive change taking place internally and externally, and delivering to changing customer needs and expectations in an age where commoditization of everything that is done becomes a reality, and where the need for personalization and individualization of experiences is also the new reality. As such, there are 6 critical considerations to be taken into account when defining the new role of an enterprise that has to compete through dynamic means and protect itself in a business environment that is turbulent and disruptive. In addition to defining the purpose from a relative standpoint by constantly asking the question, what is our role? The journey of the organization is not one that is timeless, and it's more one where a legacy is created in a predetermined era as a snapshot, and where the reinvention and reconfiguration and readaptation will become a necessity. Thirdly, insofar as the leadership of an enterprise through the new quality revolution is concerned, the key question is not to steady the ship and deliver through predictability, but rather is to constantly ask the question about getting inspired and absorbing the potential that exists for shaping the future, but also the potential that the digital revolution offers for building new capacity of adaptation and for driving the dynamism of the modern enterprise. The culture of the organization through a new quality revolution is not set in tablets of stone, but rather culture needs to be subjected to reconsideration and perhaps disruption. And the constant question that needs to be asked, therefore, is what is the DNA of the new enterprise, bearing in mind that the longevity of a modern enterprise will be considerably shrunk. The strength of a modern enterprise in the context of a new quality revolution is also one that needs to be subjected to constant evaluation, and indeed the obsolescence of existing capabilities become a reality as the purpose of the organization might be changed and redefined, and also the type of value creation orientation and sought after value might also change. Thus, the real question that needs to be asked in relation to the strength of the organization is how we do impact. It could well be that the strength of the organization is through its internal possession of the required skills and competencies and know-how, or it could well be that it has developed a significantly unique ability to collaborate externally and to leverage externally, and thereby build significant strength for impacting at the highest level. The last question in relation to purpose and the identity of a new enterprise in the context of the new quality revolution is its wider standing. Likewise, in relation to the definition of its journey from a shrinking shelf life perspective. The standing of the organization is really the level of appreciation and recognition it has generated through the assumption of its role in the context of a relative definition of its purpose and the relative exploitation of its current business model.